Welcome to Big Bad Beautiful Brains. I'm James. Since I was diagnosed at the age of 45 with autism and ADHD, I've been on a journey not only to discover how my brain works and how to look after myself, but also about other people's brains and how they look after theirs. I'll be speaking to people from all different backgrounds, all different ages, and all different experiences to understand how they think and how their big bad beautiful brains work. Hello again. Thanks for joining me on what's the final episode of this run of Big Bad Beautiful Brains. Thank you so much to everyone who's dropped me a message so far to say they've found the conversations very useful. I personally have found them incredibly useful as well in understanding how other people's brains work, how they move through the world, and how they cope with challenges, whether it's neurodivergent or neurotypical. So thank you to everyone who's been in and had a chat with me. Joining me on this episode is Bianca Molloy, Managing Director of TES 2000. Bianca is an empathetic, hardworking leader who knows that a successful business starts with supported, valued people. A self-proclaimed curious cat who genuinely loves helping others succeed. Really enjoyed my conversation with Bianca. Talked for ages before and after the recording about a whole variety of different things around autism and neurodivergence and how we both kind of struggle with overthinking and overwhelm and our own coping mechanisms for it. It was fantastic to have her as the final guest for this season. I hope you enjoyed the final episode. I'll be taking a bit of a break and then coming back with some more episodes in the next few months. Here we go. Bianca, hi, how are you?
Good, James. How are you?
Yeah, I'm okay, thank you. Thank you for joining me in my little studio today. We're going to have a little chat, ask you some questions, and see how your big, bad, beautiful brain works.
Awesome. Sounds good.
What's a song or sound that's been stuck in your head recently?
It's weird. I don't actually have sounds stuck in my head because I sing everything I do. So there's little phrases, mainly from TikTok videos, that end up getting stuck because you're looping. But I think for me, because I'm singing everything I'm doing to try and stay in the moment so I don't get distracted and try something else, I try and do that. So I've got nothing looping at the moment.
Reminds me, there's a film called The Long Kiss Goodnight, and there's a character in that who, to remember where his keys are, he kind of sings blues blues standards to kind of go da 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 da. My keys are in my left pocket.
Yeah.
So is it kind of stuff like that just helps you kind of keep on track
Yeah.
and focused and talk you through what you're doing?
Yeah, and I think sometimes it can be difficult situations. So with my role, I speak to a lot of people in a day, which is quite overwhelming. So if I'm trying to, I don't know, remember a task, like I need to send this email, need to send it today, it needs to be done, I need to do this email today.
And you vocalize it as well.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, that's really useful.
Yeah. Yeah, because I've tried writing it, I've tried putting it on a screen, but I think if I keep saying it and I sing it and then people acknowledge that I'm singing it, it becomes a memory and then I can relate to it when I go back to do it and why I'm doing it.
What's something you've been curious about lately?
One thing I've been struggling with lately is the idea of Christmas presents. So I've had many conversations with my husband and with other people about why we do it, because I find a lot of pressure in trying to find the perfect present. And I think it goes back to I don't have a neurotypical conversation with someone about their weekends or their social activities or their likes and dislikes, which means I don't really know people. So then when I go to buy them a gift, I don't know what to buy them and it becomes really overwhelming. And as a family, we don't tend to do gifts. We tend to do more experiences, or you give someone your list and you buy off that list the exact link that was sent to you rather than deviating from the plan. And I find myself in a unique situation this year where I've got more direct reports at work than I've ever had before. And I don't know what to gift them. I've tried to do it um, where everyone gets the same present. That didn't seem right. Then I tried to write down 3 things I knew about them, realized I don't know much about them outside of work, and then spiraled a little bit as to, well, why don't I take an interest? So it's something that's been playing on my mind a lot because I don't want to be seen as I don't care, because I do care. I just don't know how to care in the right way that society would accept.
Yeah, I think I don't know if you're like me with surprises.
I hate them.
Yeah, I'd
Hate
like.
them so much.
Please don't surprise me.
No.
It's gonna
Yeah.
make me spiral
Yeah.
or dysregulate me hugely.
Yeah.
So, and I think it's very similar with kind of gifting and presents. And to your point on the, you give a list to somebody and it's kind of
Mhm.
like, this is the specific thing. I
Yeah.
don't need kind of variation and that sort of thing.
Mm.
But then expanding that out into knowing people and understanding people outside of the workplace,
Mhm.
and sometimes not knowing the difference between knowing when it's comfortable to ask someone for some
Yeah.
information, or whether you're hoping that they're going to offer that information up
Mhm.
as a useful bit of information. And it is a little bit of a minefield, I find, as well, of kind
Yeah.
of knowing where the line is
Mhm.
and how to tiptoe between social expectation and
Yeah.
understanding.
Yeah. And it's also, I don't expect gifts. Never have. Like you, don't really want them because I don't know how to react when I get them. But is it that unsaid rule that they'll be getting something? Are they expecting something? I don't know. If I ask them and they expect that I should know already, what kind of conversation does that lead to? So yeah, I that is something that I've not really had the time to think about because in previous years I've just bought generic hampers and stuff like that. But for the first time, I'm like, but why do we do this? What is the purpose of it? All I really want to do is show people that I care for them, but I don't know how to do that. So that's my spiral.
What's something about everyday life that's easy for you but hard for others, or the other way around?
um, I can answer both. So the first one, hard for others, is I guess the amount of information I can retain, and the hyper focusing and how much work I can do in a day is I didn't realize it until other people tried to do my role. And they were like, we can't be like you. You're just doing too much. You're doing like 3, 4 people's jobs in one day. And I just thought I was working at a normal level and everyone else was doing the same thing. So that was a bit of a shock. But to counteract that, what things I find difficult are I can't pop to the shops. That isn't something I can do. I don't really do the shopping because I can't deal with a grocery store. So my husband does all of that. I can't deviate from a routine, otherwise I will cry and I will spiral. And if someone said to me, "Oh, can you just do this on the way home?" I cannot. So that I think being able to achieve what I do at work and everything I do, I I can't do maybe the simplest of things. If someone says, "Oh, B, we need milk at the office. Can you go get some?"
Yeah,
No,
that's not what's in my head at the moment,
no,
and it is
no.
sometimes it is hard to um, explain to people quite how. I think kind of when I used to work in offices and that sort of thing, have you got a minute?
Mm,
As a question would be the kind of
mm,
the simplest of asks, but is actually something that would derail my
yeah.
entire day because I haven't really
Mm,
got a minute, and I'm now having to think about something that
mm,
wasn't on my list of things to
mm,
do. And I think that's quite hard to explain to people who don't experience
mm,
how jarring and how kind of
mm.
taking you out of the moment that can be.
Yeah.
And in a way, I love my hyperfocus. Sometimes I find it really useful and I find it really powerful, but sometimes I kind of wish that there was a switch.
Yeah.
But there's
Yeah.
not, sadly.
No, and the sad thing for me is you do forget to drink, you forget to eat. You only realise you need the toilet like probably the last minute and you're rushing, and people don't understand it, but you're so engrossed and you want to finish it and you don't want to lose that creativity or that thought that needs to get out. And yeah, the balance is incredibly difficult. But just to add one more, because I've got a really annoying one that bugs me. So I can't order food on the telephone.
Oh, okay.
So it's something that if we were ordering lunch from a cafe, I'd have to get someone else to do it. I just can't do it.
No, phone calls in general for me, I find really hard. And I've never really kind of interrogated what it is, but I find it kind of very disconnecting
Yes.
speaking to a bodiless voice.
Mm-hmm.
Video calls are kind of okay
Mm-hmm.
because there's someone there and I can sort of see them at the other end, unless they turn the camera off, in which case I find it harder.
Yes.
But person-to-person conversations I find fairly straightforward. Unless just before we started recording, we were talking about kind of being in busy spaces and trying to maintain conversations being quite difficult. But yeah, telephone conversations and retaining information and knowing how to deal with questions during it, super hard for me.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we're together in that.
Have you found any approaches that make the world work better for you?
For me, it's being open on how I think I'm feeling. And I say that because I don't always know how I'm feeling. But if I'm feeling anxious or overwhelmed, or my gut is telling me something's not right, I've started acting on it rather than just pushing through the pain and then ending up with a panic attack, or trying to book 2 activities on one day. Stop doing that because it doesn't work as much as you try. Never make it to the second activity. So it's listening to myself more, which sounds silly when you think, oh, well, you should be listening to yourself anyway. But I think everyone goes through the same struggles. So, that anxious belly every morning, not knowing how to react in a situation, the lead up to about shaking someone's hands, things like that. Now I just go, I don't really want to shake your hand. I'm really sorry, but I don't feel comfortable. And that gives me more ease saying no and setting a boundary than it does knowing now I've had to touch them. I feel uncomfortable. I don't know what to do with my hand. Like, it's all these things of a spiral. And I think being honest and sharing how I'm feeling with the people around me, even like before we go to an event, saying, look, I need to know where to park. I'm a little bit nervous about turning up. Is there anyone I can meet before we go? Because if I don't, there's a 50% chance I'm not going to turn up on the day because I'm going to talk myself out of it.
Yeah, and I'm completely with you on that. And I think one of the things that I'm trying to teach my kids in particular is kind of, you can say no to hugs. And I think kind of the
100%.
overbearing thing of kind of, not direct relations, but, the aunties and uncles of friends and that sort of thing. It's like, oh, give us a hug. And it's like, I find that kind of fairly overwhelming. And I'm not a small person, and people will find it weird that I don't feel comfortable hugging. And it's just like, oh, but you should be fine with it. It's like, well, no, I've never have. I've just always kind of grinned and bared it. Grinned and bore it? Grinned and bared it.
I don't even
know.
know.
And I'm trying to kind of say to my kids that it's fine to say, I don't want a hug. And that, if it puts people's nose out of joint, that's their problem. But setting boundaries and kind of, I'm equally learning to try and kind of interrogate how I'm feeling before and during something, rather than, as you say, kind of pushing through it and then feeling really unwell or really overwhelmed or on the edge of a meltdown afterwards, is to kind of check in regularly with myself. Which again is a kind of, I think there's an expectation you should naturally have that.
No, it doesn't happen.
It doesn't happen.
No.
It just
No.
doesn't occur. And sometimes the overwhelming event can crop up somewhere else.
Yes.
So I've found
Yeah.
I've had something where something's happened, it's been overwhelming, and then I'll kind of feel incredibly uncomfortable at something else.
Yes.
And that's not necessarily the thing that's causing the discomfort. So it is that kind of constant check-in. But again, it's the same as remembering to drink and eat and take rests.
Yeah.
It can sometimes fall out of, I need to do that regularly to make sure that I'm okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
If you had to describe how your brain works in 3 words, what would they be and why?
So I'd say colourful, structured chaos. So the colourful side of it is because I tend to see things in colours. And that's why I really like the movie Inside Out, because I could really relate to it. Because that's how I see the world. Everything is a colour. Because that's how I try and understand a feeling. Because I don't know feelings, so I try and put them with colours. And there is a lot of structure. The way I describe it when people do ask is, it's as if you're in a it's a bit like The Wolf on Wall Street. I don't know who's seen it, but if you've got this big open plan office. You've got all these people trying to sell things. Everyone's trying to close a deal. There's things going on all over the place, but in their own little desks, everyone knows what's going on. They're closing the deal, but if you looked in, it would look like chaos. But everything gets done in their own little ways. These little people. So I think I can because when I was talking to my husband, he was like, yeah, I've got one voice. And I'm like, but I've got people doing lots of different things all the time because I have to, because I've got so many different thoughts. If I tried to just stick with one or grab one, all of the others would disappear. So I try and get lots of little people to do lots of little things at the same time.
Yeah, I think it's something I've learned is to kind of trust that more. And sometimes I've tried to force myself into doing what I thought other people would do. And kind of focus on one task, do that one thing, and then move on to the next thing. And it's like, no, I have to kind of let my brain go with it a little bit. And sometimes it'll be multitasking, and sometimes on the outside, the Wolf of Wall Street analogy is perfect because it looks like chaos.
Yes.
When I'm working sometimes, which is great when I'm down here in the cabin because I can be as chaotic as I want to be and not feel self-aware too much. But sometimes you just have to let that happen and do whatever works and kind of worry less about how it looks from the outside.
Yeah, and I think AI has helped a lot with that because you could have multiple chats open at the same time, put your prompts in, and then as one's dealing with it, you move on to another one. You can deal with an email. But I think waiting for it to come back to you for me, is painful because I'm like, you're taking too long. And I know you're AI and I know you're quick, but I need to move on to something else. And yeah, I think if people saw probably the amount of windows we have open at the same time and working through multiple emails as you have the thought pop up. But I'm comfortable that at the end of the day, everything I want to achieve, I do. It's just, I don't think anyone would be able to follow my train of thoughts.
Yeah, it's like kind of, don't, trust me
Yes.
in what I'm doing. The outcome will be fine.
Yeah.
The getting there may look a little chaotic.
Yeah, exactly.
What's something you're still figuring out?
I am still trying to figure out what is personality, what is the autism and ADHD, what is my horoscope, because I'm a Virgo, what is related to learnt experiences, and like we've said previously, trying to pinpoint what's happened in previous situations. I'm just trying to figure out how I've become who I have. And the difference between a meltdown, a shutdown, a panic attack, because I know I've got anxiety as well. So it's trying to figure out, am I anxious or am I overstimulated or am I understimulated? Like, what is going on today? And that is really difficult. Because you want to talk about it all the time, but there's only so many people that will want to listen to you literally regurgitate what's going on in your brain. So I keep a diary and I try and look at the patterns because we love a bit of pattern recognition, don't we? And figure out where I could get a little bit more control back. But that's been 2 years since I've been diagnosed, and I'm still working through who is B, because they ask me that question a lot. Who are you?
Yeah.
What makes you you? And I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah. And I think the big turning point for me, I was diagnosed 3 years ago, I think. I've lost track of time.
Yeah, yeah,
Time in itself is a concept I haven't quite got to grips with.
yeah.
But separating the difference between my anxiety, my depression,
Yes.
and my neurotype.
Mhm.
And I think when I was originally diagnosed, I thought that my autism and my ADHD meant that I was anxious and depressed.
Yeah.
It was actually the situation that I'd put myself in,
Mhm.
my environment, and my most of my life without a diagnosis that had created my anxiety and my depression.
Yeah.
And that's kind of revelatory quite quickly. Beyond that is to kind of go, okay, that's not me. That's a byproduct of me really struggling.
Mm.
And then looking at, as you say, kind of working out my personality and my neurodivergence.
Mm.
And I think that's a kind of a big, grey, messy area.
Yeah.
And they can kind of run into each other, and they can sometimes help
Mhm.
me understand who I am. And they can sometimes create more questions of trying to understand who I am. But it is that, again, to your point about, am I understimulated? Am I overstimulated?
Yeah.
Am I anxious?
Yeah.
Am I excited?
Yeah.
And sometimes needing that extra time to actually try and work out what those feelings are,
Yeah.
and creating that space to have that time to do it. Because otherwise you just kind of bump from
Yeah.
encounter to encounter and never really quite understand
Mm.
what's going on in the process.
Yeah. Yeah, and transition times help. So we, as a family, we build transition times into everything. And it might be even things like we finished a TV show and we have to go upstairs. There's going to be a 5-minute wait. Everyone's just going to get ready for about going upstairs and getting ready to, I don't know, get ready for bed or something like that. And we've had to do that in everything we do. So we build it into our days. And I think it just helps ground everyone until we move on to the next activity. And like you said, check-ins with each other. How did we find the zoo? You know, is everyone happy with where we're going next? And having that really open conversation rather than the expectation that we're just going to build a structure at the beginning of the day and just stick to it.
Mm-hmm.
Because we know as a family we can't do that because you just don't know what's going to impact you throughout the day.
Yeah, and it can sometimes be the smallest of things that can create the biggest disruption.
Yeah.
But it is having that kind of decompression time between each thing just gives you that little space to kind of take a beat, really, and then before you move on to the next thing, and take all of the perhaps anxiety or the overwhelm with you from the previous thing into the next thing.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Because then you will have a meltdown at the end of the day.
Yeah, and it does build up.
Yes.
Over time, whether it's the end of the day or a month's time, if you're trying to kind of really kind of knuckle down and kind of go, I can push through it, it's fine, I'll deal with it later. It will come back and bite you in the arse. And the longer you leave it and try and kind of ignore it, the worse the resulting kind of meltdown or burnout can be.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
What's a small thing that always makes you smile?
My little boy. So, I've never felt love like that. And I think having someone so small, he's only 5, and seeing the world the way he sees it, and he's a mini me. So I think understanding how I'm feeling and then watching him go through it at a younger age, innocently go through it and realize that his view of the world, you just don't want to change it. You know, he's so honest. Honest to the point where he says exactly how he feels, exactly how he feels. And we've had courses at the school, you know, what can you say compared to what you should be thinking? So I think thinking about him and realizing that he's not going to have to go through what I did at school because he's got me, you know, and I know the struggles I've had and I advocate for him, but also that scaffolding parenting. I make sure that I don't put him in those situations. I don't overstimulate him. I run with his ideas. So, if he wants to build a zoo with dinosaurs and the army comes in and attacks it, but his room looks like chaos, we're going to go with it. But then at the end of the day, if we're going to clean up, his brother's got ADHD and he will just throw everything into tubs and he'll be done with it, whereas Michael cannot do that. It's got to be by colour, size sometimes, by the type of toy it is, everything has a different bin. And I think knowing you've got someone else like you in the world, it's just nice, makes your heart warm.
Yeah, and to your point on kind of how incredibly brutally honest. My daughter is my youngest daughter was recently diagnosed with autism, but it's always kind of known that it was there, and kind of now having me and my understanding of it and talking to other people about their experiences of it is I will kind of protect her freedom and her will as
Yes.
much as possible.
Yeah.
However brutal it may seem sometimes with how honest she can be. But it is, and particularly kind of, when I was growing up and there was kind of peers and that sort of thing around me telling me to stop being weird and stuff like that. And it's now I want to kind of champion her mindset and create a space where she feels safe being her rather than feeling like she has to mask or not feel comfortable being herself and being performative.
Yeah.
I'd rather that she felt comfortable and strong to be her own person. And to the point earlier where it's kind of if it upsets people, that's kind of their problem.
Yeah.
And they don't understand. If they don't understand and they're not willing to kind of educate themselves, it shouldn't reflect back on the individual that's trying to be themselves and express themselves in a way that they feel comfortable.
Yeah. And we had a situation yesterday where he'd been playing in the playground and he elbowed someone, and the kid went and told the teacher and said, "Oh, he'd punched me." And Michael's like, "No, I just want to clarify, I did not punch anyone." And he came home and he was like, "Mummy, they just don't understand. I'm trying to tell them I did not punch anyone because they would be hurt. I accidentally elbowed them." And he feels so strongly about the correct story being told. And my husband will always back him for something like that because the teacher's like, "That's not the point." And Michael's like, "But that is the point. If you're going to tell me off, at least get your facts straight." And it's so important to him, and that's how I feel. And I, like you just said, I just want to make sure he knows it's okay to be who he is.
The need for, I think the need for clarity and correctness can sometimes be misunderstood as being a know-it-all
Yeah.
or being controlling or in some way trying to be overbearing on a situation.
Yeah.
The need for clarity is not from a position of control. It's trying to do it for the benefit of everyone around you.
Yeah.
And sometimes it really frustrates me sometimes where people aren't kind of clear. And I do I feel myself going, I need to correct them. But it's not coming from a point of, I know I'm right. It's coming from a point of, I'm trying to help you see the point of view that kind of, if you get this correct, then other people will know.
Yeah.
But through the lens of someone who doesn't understand the kind of the need for clarity, it can sometimes be overbearing. But again, that shouldn't reflect on the individual who's trying to be clear.
Yeah.
It should be on the person who doesn't understand to kind of educate themselves a little bit on how neurodivergent minds like to communicate, and the need for clarity is important, not just for them, but to make everyone around them feel knowledgeable and clear on what they're trying to communicate.
Yeah. Yeah. And I do it at work. We all go around A or B at the end, and they're like, "We'll leave B to the end because she's always got questions." And I always do have questions, can't help it. But one of the things I really enjoy is that facilitator app that I've got on my Copilot now, because it's running note taker, which is amazing. And I think what I really enjoy is it clarifies the points for you, and you can go through and just summarize it at the end. And I think I've been doing that in my life. So to have something do that for me is really lovely. Gives you so much like headspace back because you know someone else is taking control of those notes for you.
Yeah, and I can't. I always struggle to in meetings and that sort of thing is write notes and pay attention.
Yes. No, it's not
Can't do
possible.
both. Like I can pay attention, I can be part of it, but I won't remember what the conversation was
Yeah.
because I won't have made notes.
Mm.
So things like Otter and Copilot and Gemini and that sort of thing,
Mm.
really, really useful because it can help you through the meeting. You can be present and focused and ready with your questions in your AOB to follow up, but all the while that's assisting in just note taking and again clarity. One of the things I always try and kind of instill in people when I'm working with clients is start with why and kind of bullet point stuff and then move on, because the why is really useful in terms of defining why we're doing a task. The how, the when, and the where, and the what is kind of, that can come later, but give me some good bullet points on the start. And things like Gemini and Copilot will do that in the summaries.
Yes.
Of kind
Yeah.
of why we talked about this and the next points. So it is a fantastic aid for neurodivergent minds to just be present and not feel like they're having to split focus between being present and remembering what was talked about.
Yeah. Yeah, because you there's a lag on notes, isn't there? You're a lag, and then by the time you have your question to ask, they've moved on, which is why there's always AOB at the end, because the conversation's moved on to something else when you're ready to ask your question.
If you had a free day with no plans, how would you spend it?
So I worry I would do nothing because I would think of everything that I've got to do or want to do, and then decision paralysis, and I'd end up overthinking, well, how do I do this? But I also want to do this, and I could go here. But actually, I really need to do this. But what do I want to do? This is my day. I want to do something for me. And I think, and I've done it so many times. So I'll either do that or I'll watch my favorite shows and I do my snack tray because I'm a like divide my food type person.
Okay.
So we have those are the type of trays we have at home. Like having a popcorn bowl with everything in one, like I don't know, sweets, chocolate, and everything in one place is I end up spending the time separating them all out anyway. So my husband got me and my little one snack trays, and I like to do that. So that would give me a lot of comfort to know I've got my snacks set out for the day, and then to watch something I've already seen before,
Yes.
so I don't really have to think about it. That brings me a lot of comfort.
Yeah, I watched the same film a lot.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize that wasn't really a done thing.
No, I didn't either.
Kind of, yeah, how many times have you watched this? It's like, well, once. It's like, really? Oh, okay. I'm in double figures at least.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it is that comfort thing. And sometimes I'll have shows on while I'm working.
Yes. Yeah.
It's just a kind of background noise thing, but it is just the familiarity and you know where the story arc's going and what's going to happen next is, and I suppose some people do it with music as well.
Yeah.
But just having people talking sometimes I find just quite kind of comforting as well.
Yeah.
Someone asked me what I'd do with a free day with no plans, and I'd kind of say, well, I'd have to plan it.
Well, I didn't know if I could say that.
It's
Sounds
kind of
like
well, I'd have to plan a free day first, and then I'd plan around that. I wouldn't ever find myself waking up and going, oh, I've got nothing to do, because I feel very weird of being in that situation.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't think I'd like it. I need a reason to wake up and start my routine and go through a structure. And if I didn't have anything, I don't know when I would wake up. I don't know when I would get out of bed. So, no, I don't. The thought of that, that question freaked me out a little bit because I never really had it.
Yeah, it's a dangerous question. I think some people are kind of have been like, oh, well, I'll just see where the world would take me, and kind of like, whoa, what, really? Oh God. Is there any boundaries to this? Have you got any guardrails in place? Or but I do feel the needs to kind of sometimes over plan having no plans.
Yes.
To make sure there's space to do. For when I do nothing, I'm going to planned that space to do nothing.
Mhm.
I'd feel very lost and directionless if I started a day with nothing.
Yeah. Yeah, same.
What's something that makes you lose track of time?
And my work. Work is my special interest, and it has been since probably I was 18. And I started to get more into psychology and then occupational psychology and then people. And I can spend a lot of time trying to understand people. And I really enjoy it. And being in the role I'm in now, I get to speak to all sorts of people. I get to see them react in different situations. Um, I'll come up with coaching strategies. You know, I'm working on the 2026 plans, and I can spend hours without even realizing how long I've been there, just thinking about where we can go as a business, and then researching other companies, and then finding our place in it, and creating this massive document that no one else is going to read. But I know all this information now. And I like to research. I like to understand how we can grow, how I can get people motivated to want to be part of it. So then I research motivation theory. So it just, once you go down one website, then you're just going down that spiral, aren't you? And you really want to understand your subject more than anything. But I could be there for hours, days.
And do you think your um, drive to get into psychology and understanding how other people think was a motivation for you kind of before your diagnosis to understand how you thought and kind of open up to a wider world of how other people were thinking as well to help you make
Yeah.
sense of things?
Yeah, so I grew up in South Africa and Texas. So by the time I'd moved to the UK, I was 11, 12 years old. And I always felt really different anyway. My mum's Hindu, my dad's English, and that was a different contrast. But the way I was raised, it was really, really strict. And I wanted to understand why different cultures adopt different behaviors, different situations, why. Like, we never went to the pub, as an example, but then all my friends were at the pub on Christmas Eve and things like that, but I could never go, and I never understood why. And then I realized the first year when I did go, I didn't enjoy it. So it's like my mum and dad had created situations that helped me become who I am without realizing that they were protecting me from situations I was never going to feel comfortable in anyway. But when I went to uni, I found it incredibly difficult because I thought, well, I'm going to go stay in digs there. I'll love it. Everyone does it. I hated it so much. I spent more time at home than I did actually in the flat. And people were going out every week, and I wasn't enjoying it. And I just felt like something was wrong. And then I got into occupational psychology, and I started to understand how people felt at work. And I realized that there's so much to a person. um, I wanted to know, well, where would I fit into it? So it was, yeah, it came from a personal perspective because I'd never really found my people or anyone that I felt was thinking the same way as me. I didn't go to social events. Then I got into HR, and I thought, well, this is nice because I can use the excuse of HR because HR don't want to go to social events. And it then spiraled from that because I was like, well, why don't I want to do this? I can't be the only person in the world that doesn't enjoy these sort of things. And that's when more of the research came into play. And I just wanted to know why. I'm still figuring it out. So, but it is really, really interesting. Really interesting.
Yeah, and I think the starting to scratch the itch of understanding why
Mm,
and knowing kind of behavior when you're growing up or like when
mm,
you're at university and that sort of
mm,
thing can be really useful in unraveling a lot of the struggles or thought processes
mm,
or aversions to doing things that you've had
mm,
previously. And I think um, that there's a certain mindset of people who say, I don't want to have a label. I
mm,
don't want to be distinguished by
mm,
a diagnosis. Personally, it has answered a lot of by just having that there.
Yeah.
It has answered 1,000 questions that I've always been asking of myself,
Mm.
and always because that's the reason, rather than
Yeah.
kind of having an excuse because, oh well, I'm autistic, so I can't do this and this.
Mm.
But there's the reason of why I struggle with these things and why I
Mm.
struggle with social situations, and why my brain goes off at 1,000 miles an hour.
Yeah.
And just having those reasons there, I'm perfectly comfortable having that label there. If other people
Mm.
don't want the label, that's
Mm.
fine too. But for
Mm.
me, it's been incredibly useful to help me understand how I got to here,
Yeah.
and make some sense of it and some acceptance of it as well.
Yeah. And I think I completely agree from my perspective too. I think it helped me start to relate to people in a way that I hadn't before, because you could go through some of the similar struggles and I don't know, I felt more open talking about it once I knew there was a reason for it, which meant then I started to come into contact with similar people. And then, that shared interest of like, well, how was your day today? Because mine's really stressful. Or someone asked me yesterday, how are you feeling? And I said fidgety. And she understood straight away. She knew exactly what it meant. And it's that not everyone will understand what that feeling is, where you just can't sit still because you need to do more, but you don't know what it is, and it's actually painful, how you're feeling, and being able to talk about it openly and explain why you're feeling that way, I think is quite powerful from how I felt anyway.
What's the best advice you've ever been given?
Um, I there's two pieces of advice, but they mean the same thing. So the first was from my mum, about like having manners and being polite and kind will open more doors for you than anything. And I genuinely believe that because, I don't swear. It's something I don't do. It's never happened and I don't think it's coming. But I am a very polite person. There's always please and thank yous. And when people don't do it, it does make me uncomfortable, and I question them, which they don't like, but I don't understand why. And then my boss, who's the founder of our business, he sat me down within my first year, which would have been 9 years ago, and said, "B, you will get more bees with honey than you will vinegar." And I always thought I'm not a shouter. I don't go into a conflict situation and meet someone at their level. Like I am quiet. I know that. I'm kind. Um, and actually being able to retain that core value has meant that I can manage in a way that I feel comfortable. Because I don't want to upset anyone, but I still know I need to deliver bad news or I need to have a difficult conversation, but you can do it in a kind way. And that knowing that that's come from two influential people in my life, and they still reaffirm it all the time because I'm like, did I deal with that situation okay? Because obviously you overthink everything and you replay it for days afterwards. And they're like, but that's you. That's who you are. And you've dealt with it in the best way that you can with your personality. So that's been really nice for me to know that you can do things by being kind.
What's something you're excited to learn or try in the future?
This is a really, really big question. Sounds like there's so much potential to learn everything. But what really excites me at the moment is technology. So I love tech and I always have, and where AI is going, and I think it's allowed me to tap into a part of my brain that I didn't even know existed. And I've been able to achieve more than I didn't know think was possible because you've got that ability to talk through with Gemini or ChatGPT or a Copilot and and just run down this rabbit hole of ideas, and you're just absorbing more and more information. And I know for a lot of people it's scary. And I've done the research as a data protection manager as well, so I know how terrifying it can be. But to just see where technology is going to go, that is something I'm spending a lot of my time learning about because I just fascinated by it.
Yeah, I think the same for me as well, is that I think my reasoning about AI is the output from AI is only as good as the input.
Mhm.
And there is a kind of a mass hive mind there of
Mm.
mostly learnt human experience.
Mhm.
And it can sometimes lead you down the wrong direction,
Mhm.
but being able to understand where it's going wrong
Mhm.
and where value is coming out of it is the real powerful thing. And, I've learned some amazing things from just chatting with AI and being conversational with it.
Mm.
I for the first time the other day, I learned to do some wiring with
Mm.
a piece of electronics. I managed to electrocute myself
Oh dear.
once. Didn't do it again because
Yeah.
that's how I learn, is kind of break
Mm.
things and then
Yeah, yeah.
had to do it. But just being conversational with a piece of AI where I feel comfortable asking it questions that I might feel a bit silly asking other people,
Yeah,
and I can do
exactly.
it in a kind of environment where it can respond, and I know that it's either going in the wrong
Mm.
direction or that's the wrong answer,
Mhm.
and I can interrogate it further, but
Mm.
without feeling like, am I going to be judged for asking a silly question?
Yeah.
It feels very reaffirming to me that I
Mm.
can kind of go, I'm curious about this,
Mm.
and I'm going to go off and find out about it.
Yeah.
If I need to do more research where I know it's kind of peer reviewed and
Mhm.
um, I know it's going to be correct, I can then go off elsewhere and kind of find
Mm.
that information I need. But just having that conversation element of AI,
Mm.
as you say, is really, really useful.
I think even like communication style, so I can be overly formal, and sometimes I'll put it into Copilot and just say, "Look, this is my audience. Can you adapt my style to meet the requirements of that audience?" And that's been so helpful because I know I'm forever putting things in brackets to over explain why I'm sending the message in the first place. And my messages can be so long. So I try and make them more concise, or if it's like for the frontline workers, as an example, to make it very clear what I'm asking for. And it's helped me learn even how to adapt my style more naturally. And I don't think I would have learnt that as quickly if I didn't have AI to play around with.
Yeah, that's the one thing I
Mm.
find very fun. I always use the M dash
Mhm.
and kind of just add extra context. And then there's
Mm.
people going, "Oh, you can tell that was written by AI because the M
Mm.
dash is there." And I'm sat there going, "Okay,
No, always done
no,
it.
that's me.
Yeah.
I just over explaining myself and
Yeah.
writing far too much, but feeling the
Mhm.
need that again, it's about clarity
Yeah.
and context and
Mm.
over delivering sometimes on stuff,
Yeah.
whether it's brackets or M dashes,
Mhm.
can help inform the people you're writing to, but also reassure you as the writer that you're getting across what you need to.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's one thing you'd like listeners to take away from this conversation?
Um, uh, I guess that no one has it figured out, and we're all on a journey, and everyone's just taking in information from each other and from the sources that we've got available to us. But I don't think anyone will ever have themselves figured out or their lives figured out. But it's good to ask questions, and it's good to try and understand yourself, because then you understand how you interact with the world. And I've been privileged to be in an HR position where a lot of people have come to me and said, "B, I'm not feeling okay," or "I feel really angry. I think I need an anger therapy course," or things like that. And I always say to them, you have to understand where that's coming from. You have to go to that core root issue that's bugging you. Because, like what we said previously, is it might be something years ago, months ago. You just don't know unless you've dealt with it. And I've done a lot of counseling. I've done a lot of therapy. I've worked through things, and it pays to work on yourself and try and understand how you fit into the world, because for me it's made the world a lot easier to live in when I know where I can go and I'll be okay, where I want to go and where I need to go, but I need to put some adjustments in place.
And
Mm.
what's next for you?
I don't even know. I have been recently promoted into a managing director role. So for me, it's just learning what that is. I think I know what it is. Everyone tells me I'm doing it. There's major imposter syndrome, but I think that's just natural. But I want to understand how to be the person that I need to be for everyone in the business, which right now is quite overwhelming because I don't know enough about what everyone does. So I'm feeling a little bit behind. And as a family, they're sadly having to go through that with me. So they have to learn about health and safety and fire wardens, and we all go through it together. So every time I learn something at work, like I did fire warden training last week, I now want to do a fire drill at home. So they have to go on these creative journeys with me because I want to be like, well, let's try it at home first. And actually, are we safe? Do we need a fire blanket at home? Do we need a fire extinguisher? What happens at home? Who checks all these things? My husband's like, you can't bring everything home. And I was like, I can't help it. It's just who I am. And until I can solve what I'm thinking about, it's just going to go on replay until I've dealt with it. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's probably why I'm in a cabin 20 meters from the house.
Yeah.
Is to kind of, but it is that thing of, I can see an application for this elsewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I will learn the most random of things because it interests me.
Yeah.
And then how it can be years down the line and someone can say, oh, do you know anything about this? And it's like, yes, I do.
Yeah.
Or something adjacent to it that's coming, that in the future is coming really useful for me. So it is a case of, it can sometimes, again, it can, or from the outside, it can appear kind of disconnected and scattered, but there is method in it.
Yeah, 100%.
And
yes.
it makes absolute sense to me. And it will have a use one day. And I will keep hold of that information until it comes up.
Yeah, no, and I love learning. I've done my psychology degree. I did a degree, a master's in HR, and I'm doing an apprenticeship at the moment. I want to finish it at this point because I've left it to the point where I'm like rushing, but I needed the dopamine rush to get it done. And I don't think I've ever finished a course on time. I've always had a break or had a delay in learning or needed adjustments to get to where I needed to do before I burnt out. But I love the thought of learning something new. Exciting.
Yeah, and the incredible power of curiosity, I think, is one of the kind of greatest powers you can have. And I'd only really recently realized that I love learning, but my education and my academic skills are terrible.
Yeah.
I can't be in a classroom. I can't learn that way. And I was always disruptive at school because of it. But I actually have a very good learning mindset. It's just not necessarily in the way that other people do it. So I will buy 2 of everything because the first one will probably electrocute me, as I found out last week. But it just how it is adapting to what works for you. And making it work as well as you can, and trying to break out of those kind of more rigid frameworks that educational spaces can try and force you into, that your brain will try and find a way out of.
Oh yeah. And I can do that a lot, which is why I never went to lectures. I always asked for the slides and the textbooks at the beginning, and then I could teach myself. For my master's, I never went to the evening classes. I just did it myself in my own time. And the apprenticeship works really well because it's what you're doing anyway. You're just putting a portfolio together of what your life is. You just have to try and meet the criteria. And that's worked better for me than anything else I've done because I don't have to sit in a classroom. I just speak to my tutor once every 12 weeks. He tells me about his life, how has he applied his learning to his work, and then that works really well for me. So, I like you said, it's good to be able to work with your brain because then you're able to retain and achieve a lot more.
Thanks, Bianca. That was great.
Thanks, James.